You're a Detroit guy. I never asked you this. Were you a fan of Elmore Leonard? Did you read the Elmore Leonard crime novels that all took place like in Detroit?
No, I read no.
Okay. All right.
As a kid growing up, I read. I was a huge Marvel comic guy, like like a kid. And it was like I never read DC. I didn't buy DC. And this is back when you would go to the grocery store and you'd put a dime on one side and 2 pennies on the other, and you'd push it in, and the
Yeah.
comic book would
Wow.
fall, you know.
Yeah.
And then, or you'd go up to West Grange drugstore, and they had a rack, and they had all the. I remember, like, you'd get your allowance. I used to get $2 for allowance, so I would get, I would always buy, like, my favorites were, I'd always get Captain America, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and then it'd be like, all right, like I'd look at it like, okay, I'll get Hulk, I'll get Iron Man, because they're only 12 cents. But then you got to start looking around because there might be a 25-cent, like the big thicked up 25-cent adventure. You still want to get some penny candy. So you had to kind of, like the guy that always got no love would be like Submariner. Like you every once in a while, you'd read a Submariner. But like I had a buddy of mine that was like super high intelligent guy, and he always got Doctor Strange. So I would always think we would trade books, but I kept mine. Or Daredevil was another one I liked. And then there was a guy called Robert Bell, who was in the back of the comic books, and he sold vintage comics. So I would save my money up, and I would buy, like, I had like Daredevil 2, 3, 4, 5, like back when Daredevil was yellow and black, and like I just absolutely was. So that was like probably till I was, I don't know, 12, maybe. Then I started watching. Then it was like basketball, and the only thing I read the Conan novels, I read the Tarzan novels, and I read Doc Savage. I don't know if anybody remembers the Doc Savage books, but I used to buy the Doc Savage books, and I'd read those. And then when I got a little bit older, I started reading Harold Robbins novels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of my favorites was Goodbye Jeanette. There was 79 Park Avenue. There's Dreams Die Hard. I used to read all those trashy Harold Robbins novels. Yeah.
Did you ever have any comic books of value that you wish you had held on to? Like,
oh my God, I had so many number ones because I was so old. I was like, I had Silver Surfer, from 1 to, I mean, I had the.
Ben in the room letting us know, by the way, that Doc Savage was the inspiration for Superman. That's from
I
Ben
did not
Lutz.
know that.
Interesting. What'd you have the number one of?
Silver Surfer. Yeah, Silver Surfer. See, late 80s was too late for me.
Right. I had a friend that was so into comics. So like I tried. Like and he was one of those that, it's really funny, that line in the sand between DC and Marvel. He was like a DC guy. So like it was all DC stuff, and he dragged me to my first comic book convention. This was like before Comic-Con, obviously. This was like, I want to say mid 80s, maybe like 83, 84. And they had like Creation Comics was the name of they would take over one of the hotels in New York, and it was, seeing the whole subculture for it, but I had wandered away from the comic book area, and I went into a room and they were screening the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was a huge horror film mark as a kid. And so I'd wandered away and saw like some of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I feel like, because I was forced to kind of like this stuff, I would buy comics. So I feel like I had stuff that might have been worth something. I know I had a Wanted Comics from 1951. I don't know if that means anything, but I bought it at one of those conventions just because it looked different. I didn't really care about the superhero stuff. I kind of got that through wrestling, I have to say.
You know what? I also I think my aunt or somebody bought me. There used to be a magazine. It was called Famous Monsters of Filmland,
Sure, of course.
and I got a subscription to it.
Good for you. I had a
After
subscription of Fangoria.
Yeah,
That
and
was
I
the
had that
later.
for two. Well, I had Creepy and Eerie. I used to read those, the Creepy and the Eerie's. But this Famous Monsters of Filmland, I got I've got an issue of that for I mean, till I left to college, it was still coming.
Mm, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it just never stopped, and I never renewed it. They just kept sending it to me.
Tommy Damon. That's cool as hell that Kevin wishes Vince happy Father's Day and happy birthday every year to keep it respectful. Did
Not
you
to
do that
keep,
always since you
not,
left?
not to keep it respectful. It's just because he was, he was like a father figure to me. He
And you
took
done
care
that always since you left?
that I remember.
Yeah. Official.
Especially as we've gotten older, I always make sure that, I wish him a happy birthday. And he
When you
was,
see each other, for when they used to have you come down for stuff, does he always give you time? Does he always stop and
yeah,
talk?
we always, yes.
That's cool.
Yes. I think he knows, that I generally, when somebody generally likes you, and I know he knows I generally like him as a human being. Plus, we're both muscle heads. I mean, we within 2 minutes, we're talking about lifting.
Oh yeah, Zubaz. You put the Zubaz on, and you just start
Yeah.
talking about
I mean, he's
benching.
still, Vince is still belt squatting 1,000 pounds. I mean, he's still he's insane. So,
Week. Brandon Granger. What are 5 essential classic movies someone needs to watch in their lifetime? Hmm.
I don't know.
Crimes and Misdemeanors. Raging Bull.
Lawrence of Arabia. Saw 1.
Pope Greenwich Village. They took my thumb, Charlie.
That's what made Eric Roberts just start doing everything. When he didn't get the Oscar for that, he just said, "You know what? Fuck it.
You need me, I'm there."
Yep, exactly. Mariah Carey, you got a video? I'm there.
Wesley votes for Barbarian, by the way. I still have to see that. Let's see. Let's go to the our sent in questions.